Teachers of Reddit, what is the dumbest question a student has asked you? I remember a friend of mine in high school that did not get this at all. He understood that he was not allowed to copy Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V, so he wrote an exact copy. I remember him arguing with the teacher that it failed him for copying, and he screamed, "But I didn't copy, I wrote it off." The teacher then explained it to him, and he realized how stupid he was. As the teachers here note, there are stupid questions, but those result from being lazy or not listening. Not a stupid question, but here is my most stunning question. The day before winter break, at the end of the class period, I wished my students a Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, delightful Kwanzaa, or whatever you celebrate. My German exchange student asks, Hanukkah? What is Hanukkah? I replied, it is the Jewish holiday that falls around Christmas. She says, oh, I didn't know that. We don't have many Jews in Germany. Dead silence as I start around, you gonna tell her? Nope, you wanna explain it? Not a chance. Like that. This wasn't a question, but a student once told me I don't want to live on Earth, and I of course asked why, and he said because Earth is in space, and space is dark, and I'm afraid of the dark. Now if this had been from a 4 or 5-year-old, it would have been cute maybe. But he was 10. Bless his heart. When I was in high school, during a sex ed session that was actually really informative and comprehensive, one of the topics was how oral sex can give you STDs, something quite a few of the students didn't seem to understand. But my favorite question was from one of the girls to my left, but what if you drink bleach? One of my students was telling me that she can't see mommy anymore because mommy told on her friends. Asked dad about this, dad has custody since mom is a heroin addict. Turns out mom was friends with some people who killed some heroin dealers and scattered their bodies. Mom told police who killed the dealers and is now on the run from the rest of her crew for snitching. Oh my god, I worked as a teacher aide for a year, to supervise this little shit of a student, and a girl in the class, 9 or 10, asked me bears aren't real, right? She thought bears were in the realm of unicorns because they're in fairy tales like Little Red Riding Hood. I pretty much couldn't make her believe me. I even looked up a bear in a book and showed her. She thought it was an elaborate prank. I had a student who was sold, yes. Sold, a number of times from when he was 18 months old. He was kept as a sex slave by numerous people until age 11, when the police found him and put him in foster care. He told me his mother sold him because he was bad, and asked if I could find her and tell her he would be good if she took him back. It was heartbreaking. Student here. When I was in year 9, another student put her hand up in geography and asked, Miss, why doesn't the water fall off the bottom of the earth? The teacher rolled her eyes and ignored the question. I didn't blame her. I decided to explain gravity to this girl as simply as possible. Look, gravity doesn't pull things down, but to the center of the earth, that's why water doesn't pour off the planet. She looked at me as though I was bloody crazy, and I have since given up trying to explain anything anymore. Why? Because this was top set. One does not simply reach top set science without failing to understand basic science. Not a teacher, but when I was in nursing school and we were studying reproductive systems, we were learning to identify all of the parts on anatomical models. Dead serious, while going over the female reproductive system, the woman next to me, in her early 40s with 3 children, stops the professor and says, wait. What's the difference between the vagina and the uterus? Dead. Fucking. Silence. I'm in a room with 20 plus women and here I am, a guy, showing her on the model where the vagina and uterus are. Guess who isn't a teacher? It's me. However, I am still a student, which means I've been in a classroom with a bunch of special people a few times over my school career. One question stands out. Back in year 9 biology we were discussing labor induction, and I asked a teacher, how do they get the semen out of the man to transfer over? My logic was, they use surgery to get it in, so they must use it to get it out. Nope, the guy just jacks off in another room and ejaculates into a contain. Also not a teacher, but in one of our science classes we were talking about the heart and my teacher puts his hand into a fist saying that the heart is roughly the same size. One of my classmates sticks his hand up and asks, if I train my hand to get bigger, will my heart grow? My friend at school whose dad was an ER doctor came into the class to give a presentation about his job and answer questions. Having recently watched a certain Simpsons episode where Grandpa Simpson needs a kidney transplant from Homer because Homer refused to let him go to the bathroom on a car ride, I asked the doctor, is it true if you wait too long to pee your kidneys will explode? It happened on The Simpsons. The whole class erupted in laughter, including the doctor. Made me feel like the dumbest piece of shit to ever ask a question in the entire history of the galaxy.